Good morning, people. It's Sunday morning. The orange is out. He's out. Let's talk some football, finally. Come on.
We're still loaded.
I get those goosebumps every time, yeah, 713 to 281, yeah, I'm riding. Why they on me? I'm flying, sipping low-key. I'm sipping low-key and honest, rider. I get those goosebumps every time. I'm fine, you make everything go fine. Everybody's I get those goosebumps every time. I need the Heimlich, throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around me, throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time.
Up the mags. Yes, sir.
Good morning, people. I hope you are well. Welcome to Loaded Mag, NUFC, the home of the big match preview, the home of away days. And it's a big one today, a big match today at St. James's Park. And we're going to get into it very, very shortly with our guest. But of course, we've got plenty of tunes to go through in the chat. But first of all, we need to know how the main man is, Mr. Chris Hall, on this fine Sunday morning. How are you, fella?
Good, mate. Yeah, almost. I think the word's relieved. I'm relieved the transfer window's shut. So yeah, we know where we are. We may or may not get into it, Pete. I don't know, but yeah, I'm on a personal level, mate. I'm all good. I'm always excited on match day, and yeah, really looking forward to the day of football actually, because not only have we got our game, but then we've also got Man United Liverpool. So that should be a good game a bit later on as well. So yeah, all good, mate. All good. How are you?
Not too bad, mate. Yeah, same feelings for me. I am so happy that the transfer window's done, dusted, and we can finally focus on football between now and January. The priority, and I tweeted it out yesterday, the priority now is Newcastle United on the pitch, and that's the thing that matters more than anything else. Everything else that's happened before, I think we've all had our opinions on that. We've all had our opinions on bids, rejections, all the lot. Now it's time to get back to football, because football is the one that makes the difference. That is for sure. And good morning to Daz as well, on his way to St. James's Park. And he's telling you to smash the likes. So if Daz is telling you to smash the likes, make sure you do it right now. Do it this second. And thank you for tuning in, so many as well, and so many across the board from various different places. And we'll get into it in just a second. But first of all, we'll give a big shout out to our tuners. So great to have you all in the chat. Welcome to Bill. Bill, as always, in the house early doors. Yeah, we're not going to mention anything outside the Tottenham game. Do not worry, Bill. That is one of our priorities for this show, is to talk football and football only. Trippier for Prime Minister. Great to have you in there. Yeah, we agree absolutely. Conrad, great to have you in there with your tunes. Not quite a tune, but Shane, all the way from Oz. Hope you're well. Don't get used to the 6 p.m. previews for you over there, because yeah, we'll try and make it a Sunday morning every so often. We try. Bretsy, good morning to you, along with Jimmy as well. We've got William in the house. Hope you're well. Jeannie Estelle, great stuff. Great to have you in there as always. We've got Johnny in the house. Good morning to you. I think there's a few other tunes coming in, but we'll put them on the screen as we're going along. Chris, back to football. What are you anticipating from Newcastle United today when we play Tottenham this afternoon?
I'm expecting all action, mate. I'm expecting to see us on the front foot. We go into this game with a lot of confidence. In recent years, we've had really, really big success at home to Tottenham. I don't think we've got anything to be afraid of. Tottenham, I haven't studied the lineup in any sense, and obviously it won't be, officially released probably an hour and a half before the match. But I know that they're without Solanke and Richarlison today, so struggling up top. That'll mean Son plays through the middle, and we saw what Son did to Everton the other week. Thanks, courtesy of Mr. Pickford. But so yeah, he'll be a threat. But let's be real and say that Son's best position is left wing, and I think if he plays a striker, which I fully expect him to, I think it's a big advantage for us that. But Tottenham have got a really good squad. They've made some really good additions this transfer window, so I'm not downplaying Tottenham. And if you look on the any of the bookie sites, they have us pretty much even Steven in terms of odds.
Yeah,
they can't really quite call it. For me, I do think we are slight favourites, and I'm really intrigued, Pete. And I won't ruin it now because I'm sure we'll get to it later on. But I'm really intrigued to see your thoughts when I give my lineup, because I think the lineup for once, I say for once, it's been that way this season, but not always previous seasons. We've actually got a lot of options. So it'll be interesting to see what the lineup is, because there's 2 or 3 names where you could argue for either or, but a squad of 15, 16 players who are all ready first team is never a bad thing. So yeah, it should be good. But no, I'm going into this game confident, and as I say, now that transfer window's shut, we can just solely focus on the football. We don't have to talk about ingoings, outgoings. Not at least till January anyway, Pete. So 2025, we can start worrying about it then.
Have you changed your expectations of Newcastle United, certainly in this first half of the season? So looking at now to January, did you have an idea of where you would have liked Newcastle United to be, and now have you changed that, knowing where we are now as a team moving forward?
Yeah, see, it's a really, really good question, that, Pete, because I'm going to say no for the time being, but it's there. It's in the back of my mind. Yeah. And guarantee, if we lose one or 2 players, if somebody else gets suspended, something like that, I know it's going to be very much a case of we told you so. And I don't mean us unloaded. I mean us as a fan base. We all know that the window's been incredibly disappointing. We feel that we're a little bit shortchanged, to say the least. And it does feel like we are one crucial injury away from struggling. That's genuinely how it feels. We've had this discussion last season, but what I will say on a more positive note, in a glass half full kind of sense, is that when we've got a fully fit team, we've got a very good team, and we know that we've got a good manager, and I'm still remaining positive. We're unbeaten at the start of this season. I still maintain as well, that point at the Vitality, that will turn out to be a good point. It really, really will. I know people in the chat mentioned it as well. We'll have to talk about it at some point. Everton being 2-0 up, and Bournemouth taking all 3 points. I mean, mate, like I actually ran the shop at the end to go and get. I had to go and get my wife Lisa, and I must have left the house about 82, 83 minutes. And it didn't even enter my head. I was just like, oh, it's done. Maybe Bournemouth will pull one back. And then in the car, I heard they pulled one back. And I was like, ooh. And then literally I went in the shop, came out. And then I was like, oh my God, it's 3-2. And my WhatsApp group chats just exploded. There was talks of Moyes in. It was all there, mate. It was all there. It was all there, but not in a sense of. I mean, there is what you'll know, Pete, and a little bit from me as well. This house thing, there was a little bit of irony in there. It was like, yeah, Moyes is gonna. Not that they want Moyes. It was just like, we're gonna get Moyes. We are gonna get Moyes. So I think there's like an acceptancy, which is quite grim. But they were like, we will get Moyes. One, he's free, and two, obviously he's managed the club before, and this kind of section of the Premier League is what he's used to. And there's still quite a few players there actually who used to manage. So yeah, I think there's an expectancy now that Dyche has probably got one, maybe two more games, and they'll pull the trigger, and that they reckon Moyes is gonna come in and save the day. Because Pete, wouldn't it be poetry if Everton managed to stay up these last 2 or 3 seasons, despite everyone thinking that they were down, me included. Like I always not defended Everton, but I always were like, nah, they'll be fine. And then was it last season? No, I think it was the season before last. I was like, they're down, they're done, it's over. And then obviously they stayed up. But wouldn't it be ironic if they were to go down on the season when they're about to get a brand new stadium? Like that would just be Everton. That's what they do. But yeah,
that would be an absolute dream for a lot of Newcastle fans that have grown to dislike Everton just a little smidgen. That would be an absolute dream, and I'm sure your household would be a very maybe uncomfortable place for a few days.
Yeah.
When that was to happen. But look, let's get someone in who has helped in Everton's downfall so far this season. Has definitely contributed in a positive way to that. And look, we already know on away days, for those that have been watching over the past 3 years, the best way we do an away days, a big match preview, is that we get the man on who knows about the opposition. It's an absolute pleasure to welcome back in Tottenham fan. And if you've watched the Top Table Talk, you'd have seen him, Patrick Tarrant. So, Pat, how you doing, fella? Good morning. Oh, I think he's on mute. 1 second. I think you're on mute.
Oh, he's still on mute.
Yeah, you're still on mute.
Can't hear you, mate.
Not sure. He'll be back in just a second. He's just going to sort it out. We always have technical problems. It's the morning; everyone's still waking up. So we'll keep going through. Thinking about Eddie Howe. What's Eddie Howe's mindset right now? Thinking about the games to come. So we've got Tottenham, we've got Wolves, we've got Fulham. I think in our next 3. What's his mindset now in terms of prepping and preparing the players for these games? 3 massive games.
Yeah, 3 huge games. I think Eddie will do as usual. I know he says this, but I actually think this will be how he sets up. I think Eddie will be saying, 1 game at a time. And I think it's very, very key for this, these coming fixtures, because as we know, we've got Tottenham today, and then we've got a big, massive 2-week break. So I think it'll just be about getting the lads together. Hopefully within that 2-week break, we can see the likes of Callum Wilson coming back. Hopefully Joe Willock won't be far away, or maybe back. Sven Botman can't be too far away, I wouldn't have thought. Early signs that it could be around October time. So hopefully he won't be that far away. And yeah, again, it's just about having more bodies, more options. But yeah, I think he'll focus on it 1 game at a time, Pete. And I think that, he just needs to try and maintain this unbeaten run. I know we're only 3 games in, including the cup game, but it is key to try and keep an unbeaten run. And I think today, I think you mentioned this, Pete, on the last show, when we were on with Daz, today feels quite key in that, if we go and beat Tottenham convincingly today, all of a sudden, the cloud, the misery, the panic, the frustration, all kind of gets put to one side, because ultimately as a fan base and as a club, there's nothing that we can do now until that January window. So let's just focus on the football. Let's get back to basics. Let's try and keep everyone fit, and let's just try and keep performing properly. I mean, we've still yet to see, I would say, this season. We saw glimpses at the City ground, Pete, in little spells of us playing incredibly well. But we've still yet to hit, I'd say, 4th gear. We haven't done that yet, but we're renowned for doing it against Tottenham, and hopefully we do. What about you, Pete? What are you thinking Eddie Howe's approach is going to be for the next 3 games?
I think it's going to be, in my opinion, front foot football. He's going to want to entertain. He's going to want to attack teams. I think we'll see that today. I think we'll see a team that will come out and really go at the opposition, and look to potentially kill the game off, like he's done in previous games against Spurs, where he's gone out and really gone to attack them and want to kind of prove a point. A lot of question marks around the club, a lot of question marks around Eddie Howe. There's a comment just above, a few up from Tony, Chris, in the chat, Tony Beasley, and he, when you were talking about expectations, his expectations have dropped, as Tony's quite said on there, and now he's sort of looking top 10 and a cup run, seventh place at best. Well, this is why I think Eddie Howe will come out quite bullish with his team, is because he's going to want to prove people wrong. People in the media are discarding Newcastle, not even talking about them as being that team that could potentially be at the top. But ultimately, that's where Eddie Howe likes to be. He's always almost been sort of that underdog. We were the underdogs in 2 years ago when we finished fourth. We were the underdogs in Champions League, and we nearly did that with Champions League. We probably should have qualified for Champions League, like for the next phase of the Champions League. We ended up finishing fourth when nobody thought we would finish fourth. And so he's in that position again, where the expectations have dropped. He's now in a position where he needs to kind of make miracles. And he's in a good position to do so. And I do think we've still got a really good attacking front line. So I do think he'll be bullish with regards to that. I'm not going to lie, but let's see if the main man is up and running. The mic working. How you doing, fella?
Can you lot hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. My apologies. You know what? I'm so sorry. Like, I hate to be late. I've had a nightmare this morning. My Wi-Fi was down. Then, for some reason, my iOS software updated, and it's not letting me on Safari. So I had to download the StreamYard app. Then, as you saw, when I tried to come in, the mic wasn't working. I had to reset it. It's crazy, but I apologize. I'm here. How you lot doing?
We're good. We're good. We've just said no transfer window talk. We've exhausted it as Newcastle United.
Yeah, it's crazy. Even for us, I mean, we got a few players in, but I'm not going to lie. Most of us are feeling the same. We're kind of underwhelmed with our window. A lot of players that look talented, they're really young, but we wanted ready-made players that can come in now and upgrade the first 11. Other than Dominic Solanke, your Archie Grays, your Bergvales, your Wilson Odeberts, they're so young. Like, are they, I mean, they're going to get thrown straight into the firing line, and we're going to have to see how they do. But I wanted like a Eze or, players that we know can come in and straight away have an impact. But it is what it is. I mean, a lot of teams, including yourself, sorry to throw you under the bus here, didn't get the players they wanted or didn't at least get one or two upgrades. So when I look at it, it's one of them things. But in a way, I'm glad the window's over now, so we can just focus on what's here, what we have, and then we move on. And obviously today is a massive test for us. It's a big litmus test. Yeah. I'm relishing it. There's a lot of Spurs fans that are really scared about today's game, but I'm excited because you live for the big games. You live for the big tests. As you lot know, when you was in the Champions League last year, I'm sure a few of your fans were nervous, but also excited when you go into these big games, because this is where we're going to know where we're at. The last two away games to you guys have been abysmal. I mean, they usually come in April, don't they? So it's come around quite early this time. And obviously, we've been smashed 4-0, smashed 6-1. That's a 10-1 aggregate in the last 2 years, which is insane. So today is, I'm going to see what this team is about. I'm going to see, has Ange learned? Are the players ready? You guys will be up for it. I hope we're up for it. And I'm excited. It's going to be a good one. And it's also a good one for you lot, because obviously it's a good game for you guys against a good team. And you guys from the other side will see where you're at, because you've been a bit shaky so far. Do you know what I mean? I know you lot are a good team, but I haven't seen that so far. So it's going to be interesting for both parties.
Yeah, definitely. Like, Chris, I'll come to you on this, because what Pat's just said is absolutely right. We haven't been great in all of our performances. We haven't been the Newcastle that we kind of expected ourselves to be. And so, is there pressure on us to put that performance out. I've said to you just before Pat came back on that I think Eddie Howe will be bullish today, and I think he will go out and want to really attack Tottenham. You know, is there pressure on us that we have to put a performance in today because the season's performances so far haven't been great?
Yeah, I think so. As Pat said, it does feel like a litmus test because I know I said we wouldn't talk about it, but you know, after the transfer window we've just had, I think now we've got to focus on the football and we've got to really start, you know, putting in performances because we did. Well, I said earlier, didn't I, that it kind of feels like we've been in second, third gear. We weren't great against Bournemouth, and I must admit, when I watched Bournemouth against Everton yesterday, I did think, how come Everton is so comfortable against Bournemouth? That was up until the 87th minute, by the way. But I was thinking, you know, where was this performance against Bournemouth? Because, you know, we had a tough game. It was really, really difficult. Against Southampton, similar when we went down to 10 men. But even before then, 11v11, Southampton were probably, you know, in the ascendancy rather than ourselves. And that's a newly promoted side coming to St James's. So we're due a performance. Pete, you and I were at the City Ground, and like I say, there was moments where I thought, here we go, we're starting to tick, but we didn't see it for a long enough period. Now, you know, if the players and Eddie Howe can't get up for this game against Tottenham, where, as Patrick points out there, you know, it's a 10-1 aggregate in recent years. It's against a big Tottenham side. So this is a team, you know, who had a really good season last season, but will want to kick on. They'll want, you know, to be challenging for that top four, and really at home. The message for me today is to put in a good performance and not get beat. You know, obviously I want the 3 points, but key for me is to not get beat, because even if we walk away from this with a point, Tottenham I assume will be happy with the point considering previous results, but then also it means that we keep our unbeaten run. And you know, we can then have the international break and then look to Wolves. But you know, I'm going in confident, but it will all depend on how we start and you know whether that intensity is there. Because you're right, Pete, we need to be bullish and we need to really have a go at Tottenham and really, you know, try and put them to bed early, is what I'd say.
Definitely. And Pat, you touched on Ange. You know, looking at what, like, assessing yourself in a big game this season. Now, with Ange, he came in like a bit of a whirlwind last season, and he was playing this attacking football that Spurs fans have been looking for, and you guys were buzzing, particularly that first part of the season, until the injuries started to kick in. There then started to be a different sort of narrative, particularly in the media, that, you know, Spurs teams couldn't defend. It was all kind of gung-ho, high line, and conceding goals, and like we benefited from that, as we talked about at St James's Park last season. Like, has Ange changed his tactics in any way? Has he tweaked anything? Has the style of play changed in any way to make you a little bit more robust, a little bit more kind of solidified as a team? Like, what have you seen over pre-season? And can Newcastle fans or anybody else expect to see something different at St James's Park today?
You know what, Pete? Such good questions. And today will be where we'll find out some of the answers to these questions. I can't lie to you. You know, Everton, who I think are crap, I kind of caught the back end of what you were saying before. I crashed out, and I agree. I've got them tipped down to go down this season. I think there's only so many times you can dance with the devil before you get burned, and I just don't think they're a good team. I don't think Sean Dyche is a good manager. You saw yesterday, 2-0 up. I thought, okay, cool. Their first 3 points. 8 minutes later, they're 3-2 down, and that just sums them up. They're awful. And then obviously we played Leicester first game of the season. Annoyingly, I mean, if anyone watches that game objectively, we absolutely battered them and should have got the 3 points. But as you know, in this league, if you don't take your chances and the other team's still within a fight, you know, touching distance, Leicester, to their credit, stayed within the game and got a point. So our first 2 performances have been good. Today's is a massive test. It's our first, without, you know, no disrespect to the other teams, today's our first proper game. So I'll be able to answer some of your questions, and I'm sure you'll be able to see it as this game unfolds. Last year against Man City, back end of the season, where, you know, the club was in kind of like split 2 ways. You had the fans that wanted us to win because you never want to see your team lose, but there was the fans that wanted us to lose the game because we knew that if we beat Man City at home, and going into that game, Man City had never even scored a game at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in the Premier League. we knew that if we beat Man City, it would have been good for us, but also bad because it would have essentially almost handed Arsenal the league. But in that game, to my annoyance, I saw Ange change his tactics. We dropped our line a bit deeper. We played with a false nine. We obviously had our fullbacks not so highly pushed up. So I've seen Ange adjust and tweak things in 1 or 2 games. But today's is a great test because away from home against a good team with quality all over the pitch, we can't go gung-ho like we could against a Leicester or or Everton, because those teams are not as good. Today, we're going to have to obviously battle in the middle of the park. You guys have got quality attacking players that can hurt us, as in Gordon and Isaac. Today will be a good test, man. So I can't really answer these questions yet. It's so early on in the season, but we'll see later on today, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. And look, with that in mind, Tottenham, you got 5th. You just missed out on sort of Champions League football by like a few points with regards to Villa. At one point, it did look like you were going to be that team to overtake them when Villa was just starting to kind of fall flat at the back end of the season. What are your aspirations for this season as a Tottenham fan? Are you realistically, do you think Champions League is a realistic target, or are you looking at sort of the same again? Like, where's your head at?
Okay, so I've predicted 5th and the Europa League. I really want us to win the Europa League this year, man. I think there's no excuses now. Again, I wanted us to probably go out and get 1 or 2 more solidified starters that come in and really improve the starting 11. We haven't got that. But on our day, if everyone's fit, we've got a good team. Funny enough, a few of the bookies have labelled us favourites, which is a good and a bad thing. Obviously, it's a good thing because they respect where we're at right now, but it's a bad thing because it adds that extra pressure. But I think that we're more than capable to win the Europa League if we go for it. Of course, there's some good teams in there. The draw's been done. There's some tasty fixtures, but I think we're 4th or 5th best in the league right now. It's a tough one because obviously Arsenal and Man City are definitely levels above the other teams. Then I've put Liverpool at 3rd. I've put Villa at 4th right now because I still have to respect them. They've finished above us 2 years in a row. Finished 4th last year. They deserved it. Depending on how they adapt to Champions League football, I've probably got us 5th. But then I've also got you guys, as you know. I respect you lot highly. I think you're a really good team. I've got you there or thereabouts. I've also got. You can never write off Man United. I don't think they're that good, but you can never write them off. Every year they somehow pick up a trophy, or they're a decent team on their day, so you can't write them off. And then Chelsea, we just don't know what they're going to do, but obviously they've got quality in that team if they can get it together. So those are my takes for this top 6 or 7. You lot are definitely in there, man, 100%. I think for me, of course, I want us to finish as high up the table as possible, but I do think there's some really good teams that we'll be battling. You lot not having Europe is a big... I mean, I know, of course, you'd be pissed that Man United snatched it at the death off of you, but I think it's a blessing in disguise, I'm not going to lie, especially with the squad that you've got. You've got a tight unit. You didn't get in 1 or 2 players that you wanted. So the fact that you don't have Europe is actually a blessing. You guys can just go for the league and you got more than enough to keep that going. Eddie Howe likes working with a small unit. I think you lot will be all right, man. I think you're going to have a good season. So, I'd happily take 5th if we win a trophy. If not, we have to get top 4. But no one's got a divine right. And that's with you lot, Man United, Arsenal, this and that. No one's got a divine right. You've got to get the points on the board. You saw yesterday, everyone probably assumed Arsenal were going to win that game, and they didn't. So you've got to put the performances in. It's tough, man. Like, it's not like before where you could name the top 4 or 5 easy. There's now 6, 7. Even West Ham fans will think they've got a shout. I'm not sure about them yet, but I know you lot have done it. You've done it time and time again. Say time and time again. The last couple of years, you lot have been good, if you get what I mean. So, yeah. I need a trophy this year for us, man. I really need that trophy, and I don't see why we can't go for Europa without the drop downs from the other teams.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Would that be your assessment, Chris, around sort of 5th place, Europa League, potentially fighting for Champions League for Tottenham? Is that where you kind of had them?
Yeah, I think Tottenham will be in and amongst where we will be. I think it'll be tight. Be interesting to see how, as Patrick said there, how Tottenham cope with Europe. But I feel like Tottenham have got a deeper squad than us. So I imagine they'll be fine. Not gonna lie, Patrick, I'm reading all these comments. A few Tottenham fans are putting in here, and he's saying about a good few players out. I mentioned at the start of the show.
Yeah, no, I think he'll be all right. There's a few rumours but that's been going on, and from what I've heard, he's okay. So we'll see. I've heard he's okay, so I'm not going to worry too much yet. Fingers crossed. But yeah, we need Mickey, man. Such a good player. Even though, I mean, for him, it's redemption time because Isaac had him on his arse last year, man. That was.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie, man.
I love you, but I
had it ready.
You had that ready. You had that ready. Oh man, yeah, that was so bad. And the thing is, I was like, he slipped, and then when I watched it back, I was like, I can't even defend it. Yeah, Isaac just posted him. It was such a good performance from you. I love Isaac. I think he's such a good player. I've even got him in my fantasy football team, but I just need him. I've double jinxed myself. I captained him today in the hope that it jinxes him. So fingers crossed. When you obviously captain your player, they never do well. So I actually captained Isaac on purpose, hoping he has a stinker. But he's such a good player, man. It's going to be a game I'm going to love to hate watching at the same time. But yeah, man. I'm looking forward to it. But
I love that, mate. My blue mate does that. He doesn't have any Everton players. He's an Everton fan. He doesn't have any Everton players in his team. And whenever Everton are playing like Liverpool, he like Captain Salah. And it's almost like the reverse psychology.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. Yeah, because if I had Haaland in my team right now, I don't have Haaland, and it's been killing me because every year, he's getting hat tricks. If you captain him, you're already on like 50 points, and I'm like, as soon as I bring him in, he's not going to bang. So I'm like, hopefully. Yeah. Having that kind of mentality will mess up Isaac today. So yeah, man, fingers crossed.
I'm not gonna lie, I captained Haaland this weekend.
Yeah, I did.
Points on the board. But no, fair play. I think there's a couple of questions for Patrick that we've starred, Chris. So we'll come to them and then we'll get straight to the tactics. And I want to get your lineup today, Pat. We've got the squad ready, so you can choose your lineup. We'll get to that. Predictions, and then we'll be out. So but just before that, someone had put in the chat obviously the sad news last night that Sol Bamba passed away aged 39 years old. No age. I'm 39 myself, so it definitely resonated with me when I heard that news. But didn't represent Newcastle United, but we played against him a number of times, as did Tottenham. And the clubs he represented, the likes of Leicester, Leeds, and others, obviously paid their respects to him. So I just wanted to pay our respects to Sol Bamba. Horrible news, that one. So I just wanted to put that out. So thank you for someone putting that in the chat earlier. But couple of questions for Pat, and then we'll get those tactics boards up and running.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. There was one really good question actually I saw, so I'm going to start with that one if I can find it. It's a really good one. So Gavin Mack says, question for Patty: do you think Ange could be caught out this season without changing his tactics slightly? He's been very stubborn across his managerial career in how he plays.
Yeah, 100%. Like, no one's immune to being caught out if you don't adapt, and that goes from your Peps, your Klopps, Eddie Howe, whoever it is, all the top managers. Every team studies every other team relentlessly, and we kind of figure out how every team's going to play. But of course, you've got to adapt. You've got to have some unpredictability to your craft to continue to develop. And even the best managers will slightly tweak things every season. And if Ange doesn't, he will become he becomes unstuck. And we kind of saw that last year, especially when we didn't have the personnel. If everyone's fit and firing, we have the personnel to play with the high line and to do this and that. But when the second string came in, and we don't have the pace of a Mickey van der Ven, or we don't have someone who reads the game as well as Romero, then you become unstuck if you continue to, pursue that type of method without the personnel to do it. So, yeah, of course. And against a good manager like Eddie Howe, you need to have a plan B and a plan C and be able to adapt to the crowd and everything else that's going on around you. So, yeah, the answer to that is yes, if he doesn't adapt. Again, we'll see a lot more about Ange this time, this year. Teams know how we're going to play. Teams kind of know what Ange is about now. So it's whether he can still get the best out of the players and also, adapt to what you guys are throwing at us as well, because we've had 70% possession in the last 2 games. You lot are definitely going to have a lot more of the ball than the other 2 teams we played. So it's how we defend as a unit, because defensively we weren't great last year, as you guys know. So yeah, we need to see a bit more on both sides.
Yeah,
love it.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Well, I've got 3 more questions. Two of them are very quick fire, but I really like.
I'll be quick.
Yeah, this question's from Lee G. I really like this one as well. Lee G says, a question for all of us: are both managers in danger if they don't get Champions League football? So we'll start with you, Pat.
There's a big thing called context here, and it really depends. How you do domestically, as in if you don't have a good cup run, depends on what the other teams are doing. Like if you lot miss out by a couple of points and you had a good season, I don't think so. The same for us. Obviously, if we're stinking it up in 7th or 8th and there's a massive gap between us and 4th, then yeah, of course there's going to be questions. Another key thing is injuries and what happens and all of that. So it's not as black and white as if you don't get 4th, you've had a failure, especially when we know there's about 7 or 8 good teams this season. So context is a big thing. We'll have to see how the season unfolds.
Yeah. What about you, Pete? What are you thinking? Is there the hour under pressure if we don't get Champions League football, or have expectations changed?
I thought before, obviously, how the window ended, that would be the case.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it will be now.
Yeah.
And part of the reason being is because we keep talking about transfers, but because we didn't strengthen the squad the way we wanted to, and it's partly down to the ownership not coming through, or certainly the people above him not coming through. He's responsible too, as we've talked about, but because others were responsible for us not giving him the tools to be able to do the job, I think that they would take that in mind. I've said it before and I'll say it again. European football is an absolute minimum. If he falls out of that European football and we don't get European football for 2 years running, I do think he'll lose his job. That's the absolute bare minimum for Newcastle United is where we want to be. And that's not being snobby or anything like that. That is me saying that's where Newcastle United as an ownership, as a club, expect to be now. With the investment that we've got, what we've had, and what is likely to come, European football is the minimum. I would say, Champions League won't be the be-all and end-all for Eddie Howe's job. And on the other side of it, I think there maybe be a little bit more pressure with him because you finish 5th. The club and fans are going to want to see a little bit more progression. I still don't think he'll get sacked if you don't get Champions League, but I think there'll be more of an expectation that you're in that conversation come April, May time. So I think there will be a little bit more pressure on Ange for that reason. What about you, Chris?
Yeah, no, you took the words out of my mouth, mate. I mean, pre-window, thinking that we were going to bring in 1 or 2 or 3 big signings. If we were sitting here now with Mark Gahey and say, a top right winger, I'd say minimum expectations top 4. But now, I do think that has helped Eddie in certain ways, because I think now if we were to get top 4, it would be very much a surprise. We are capable of it, but I don't think the expectation's there anymore. So whether that helps Eddie Howe or not, I don't know. But I agree. Europe should be the target. Europe and a good run in the cup. I think that's got to be the bare minimum now. But we'll have to wait and see. I suppose expectations rise as well with performances and results on the pitch. If we get ourselves into a really good position, the expectation will rise then, because then Eddie will be expected to get us over the line and deliver. Whereas if we're teetering around 6th, 7th for the whole season, no one will be expecting top 4. So I suppose it's the way the table goes as well, while the fixtures are ongoing.
Definitely.
Right. This is a bit of a random one, but I promised Martin I'd ask you both this question. I've got my own opinion on it, but I'm interested to see what Pat thinks as well. Do you know, Pat, if Mike Ashley was a Tottenham fan or a Chelsea fan? Do you know that?
I don't know. That's a good question. I know obviously he's what you lot call a Cockney. He's London, but I don't know. I hope he's not a Spurs fan. I don't want any association to that guy, man. I know he gave you lot nightmares for ages. You lot have been a sleeping giant for a long time, and he just held the club back. So yeah, I hope he's not a Spurs fan. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I
Unfortunately,
always thought he was a Tottenham fan, Pete, but I don't know. Do you think? I think it's David Tofield. He's adamant he's a Chelsea fan, whereas Martin and a few others are siding with me saying they think he's a Tottenham fan.
unfortunately for Pat, he is a Tottenham fan.
Ooh.
Mike Ashley's always been a Tottenham fan.
Is it? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think he was an avid Tottenham fan as well. I think I remember just hearing when he first bought the club, there was he had tried to get himself involved in Tottenham in some way, shape, or form. That would have been interesting. Him owning a view that's worse than Levy. That is way worse. But yeah, he is.
No, I'm googling it right now, and there's a few things saying like Ashley hates Spurs. He's a Chelsea fan. Another one saying that he's a Chelsea. So Google it as well. Check it out for yourself. I'm just literally Googling it as you said it.
It was said at the time of him taking us over that he was a Tottenham fan.
Yeah,
that was said. But
yeah, check it out.
Yeah.
To be fair, I don't think either one of us want that to be true.
No.
Yeah, no one wants to claim that. So maybe false rumors in the media. Who knows? But it does say there's a few links on Google that say he's a Chelsea fan. So yeah.
Interesting. Well, the last question, I'm going to answer this last question, and it's from Dinny Mag. And Dinny Mag says, "Does Tonali start, lads?" Dinny, you're about to find out, mate.
I love a segue, Chris. I love a segue. Lovely stuff. Right. Here's a tactics board up and running, ready for you guys to pick the teams that you think will start today. And Pat, I've got your squad here all the way through. Choose your 11, mate. Who do you think starting from goalkeeper through to attack?
I think the back five picks itself if everyone's fit. So fingers crossed that there's nothing going on with the Mickey van der Ven. So you obviously got Romero. So Vicario in goal.
Yeah.
You've got depending. Are you starting left back or right back? But right back, if we're doing that way, we've got obviously Pedro Porro.
Yeah.
Then the right centre back, you've got Romero.
Yeah.
Left-sided centre back, you've got Mickey van der Ven. Fingers and toes crossed that he's fit. I mean, on Friday, Ange come out and said everyone's fine. Maybe, he could be hoodwinking us just to not put a big thing on that. But he said everyone's fit and available. That is already available. So, yeah. And then, obviously, you've got your Doji on the left-hand side as your left fullback. In the middle of the park is quite an interesting one because we've got a few options. Does Bentancur come back in after the concussion? I think Basuma definitely starts again. He had a really good game and you want to keep him going. So, put him in.
How's your midfield?
Then it's definitely Maddison. I would say it's usually 2 6s play together because we don't have someone who's robust enough to be a lone 6. So I'd say, you got 2 6/8. So yeah, Basuma on one side. I'd go out on a limb and put Bentancur in there.
Okay.
And then I would put Maddison just in front of those two, if that makes about that. And then through the middle, even though he hopefully won't be through the middle through the whole game, is Son. So put him in.
Okay.
Wilson Odobert will definitely start on the left. He had a really good debut. I say definitely. It's a tough one. This is Newcastle away, so it's not definite.
Yeah.
And then
he looks really good Odobert, didn't he, mate?
Yeah,
really
he does. He does. He looks really direct. Techie, can take his man on, and obviously end product still. But he's young. But I liked him. I liked his performance. It's a tough one here because I would start Kulusevski, but Ange seems to love Brennan Johnson. So am I going off what I want or what I think will happen?
Yeah, but up to you. Maybe
I'm going to throw in Kulu. I have to. Kulu's such a good player, and I need to see him in as opposed to Brennan Johnson. So yeah, that's what I would do. But that Kulusevski spot, Ange will probably throw Johnson in. But that's what I want.
Yeah, but I'd be surprised if Kulusevski didn't start just because he is a talented player. He didn't have the best of season last season, but he has got. That is for sure. Okay, so teams in place for Tottenham, Chris. Give us your Newcastle United 11, mate.
Yeah, it's good. It's going to be a difficult one, this, Pete. So you may have to critique me here, but I'll go with Nick Pope in goal. Obvious one.
Yep.
I'll do the centre backs first. So I think left centre back will be Dan Burn.
Yeah.
And I think right centre back is going to be Emil Kraft.
Okay.
Right. Okay. I'll just go for it. I think it will be Lewis Hall left back.
Yeah.
And I think right back is going to be Tino Livramento.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of pace on those wings, and I think he's going to go. Eddie's going to go with pace. I mean, obviously you could argue Trippier, you could argue Kelly, but I think that's the four that he'll stick with. Midfield again is also interesting. I think Bruno will be in the holding position.
Yeah.
I think left centre mid, despite some people saying that he should be dropped, for me, I think he has to be in this team. As left centre mid for me will be Joe Linton.
Yeah.
And then right centre mid.
I'm
gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. Tonali's
Come
gonna
on.
start. I think Tonali's gonna start. Yeah. Which I've been made up to say. Hopefully he does.
He was so good on Wednesday.
He was everywhere. I think he's got enough in the tank. Yeah. I think the message has got to be, go out there and give as much as you can for 60, 65 minutes. I think that's what it'll be. And then obviously Sean Longstaff coming in, to give him a rest. So I think he will start with Tonali, and I hope he does. Forward line a little bit easier, I would say. So I think the forward line is going to be left wing Anthony Gordon.
Yeah.
I think through the middle will be the main man, Alexander Isak.
Okay.
And purely, Pete, after what we saw at the City ground when Harvey Barnes was switched to the right, I think Harvey Barnes is going to be on the right wing.
Yeah.
That's what I think it will be.
The team is set. Now, I'll be honest with you, Chris, there's not really too much to critique there with regards to the lineup. This is the team that I would go for myself, partly because we don't have any other maybe centre-back option. You could argue that instead of Kraft, you could go for Kelly, but with the right-left foot balance, that's what he'll probably go for. Tino Livramento was superb when he came off the bench against Nottingham Forest. And that link there between Livramento and Barnes, particularly that overlap and the pace that is down that side, it was really, really good, really, really positive to see. Tonali has to start. Like Tonali, for that first half for me, was one of the best players on the pitch. He was superb. One-touch football, like the elegance and the way in which he played was absolutely brilliant. And almost, it sounds really weird saying he almost overshadowed Bruno Guimaraes. And Bruno Guimaraes came on for Willock after like 10 minutes. And normally he's the star guy. But Tonali was just pulling the strings. His pace in recovery, strength. The guy's not played for 10 months. And you can understand why he played literally 60 minutes, Pat, and he's already been picked for Italy. For international,
he's a quality guy, man. He's such a good player. Obviously, for my sake, I hope he doesn't start, but realistically, he will. Probably he has to, and he's that good. He's so smooth and silky. He's a good player, man.
Yes,
mate. Player. The drop down between Tonali and Longstaff is great. And look, we have to give props to Longstaff. He scored the winning penalty that kept us in. And a massive pressure point. So fair play to him, but the quality of player is so different. But and Barnes was really good on that right-hand side. I know he's not a right winger, but he attacked his fullback. The trickery, the pace. I mean, the only thing I'd maybe say is potentially do this or start with this. And the reason being, and I'm only going on historics here, is that historically, from the last game at St. James's Park, Gordon really got the beating of Udogie. And I don't say that lightly because I think he's a tremendous left back.
Yeah, that's true.
He did get the beating of him last time with his pace and directness. So whether he goes for the same again, anyhow, I'm not sure. But I wouldn't argue against starting like this either. So that would be my thing. But any weaknesses in the team, Pat, that you can see from Newcastle and where you might exploit?
No, I don't think. I think you lot are a very complete team. I really do. I like you lot a lot, as you lot know from all the praise I give you guys on this and many other channels. I think for me, the weakness would be going at Joe Linton. He's a hothead. He's rash. He's someone that if he's not having the best of games and get under his skin, he's volatile. He can erupt at any moment. I like Joe Linton as a footballer, but I do think he's got a bit of that bozoness in him, and he's reckless at sometimes. And as you guys saw when he just clotheslined the keeper for no reason, like he's capable of just losing it. He's not been that good this year as well in the games I've watched. I know it's early days, but he's not been as composed as he usually is. So
Southampton, he was very good.
Was he? Okay, fair enough.
And we were down to 10 men, but you are right. Since then, Bournemouth and again against Forest, he hasn't been great.
Yeah, and then again, Dan Burn, good player, but you can exploit his pace. His lack of pace on the other side. So those are the players I would try and get at. But like you said, on the wings, you've got very good players going forward. Anthony Gordon, one of my favourite wingers, old-fashioned winger, takes his man on direct, has end product. I really like the kid. And Harvey Barnes, good player. Didn't really see that much of him last year, but I like his directness. He's a good player. And obviously, Isaac speaks for itself. But in terms of what you asked me, Joe Linton and Dan Burn would be the two players who I would target. They're good players, don't get me wrong. But if you're looking at the team, those are the weaker spots for me.
Right, last point on the tactics ball for me before we get to predictions and see out the show. Chris, where do you see is exploiting Tottenham? And then Pat, if you come in and say where you think your weaknesses are that Newcastle United could potentially exploit. So Chris, where do you see us getting in against Tottenham today?
I think in terms of getting in, it would be on that left-hand side. We know Pedro Porro. Pedro Porro is a real threat going forwards, and we know that he likes to get forwards. Now, I'm hoping that Pedro Porro does get forwards, and that it leaves a little bit of space for Anthony Gordon and possibly Joe Linton there, to attack that left-hand side and basically isolate Christian Romero. We know that Christian Romero is a very good centre-back, but he can be quite rash sometimes. So I would hope to see Anthony Gordon running at him, to try and force that decision from him, to try and hopefully, draw that yellow card or draw that penalty. So for me, I think that's going to be a key area. And obviously, if Sandro Tonali starts, I think Sandro in the middle of the park, if he's up against Bentancur, Bissouma, he can really break those lines and provide those runs. I mean, Pete, we saw it, didn't we, at the City Ground away? Sandro Tonali, we know Sean Longstaff likes to enter the box late, but Sandro Tonali, he just kept running and running. He nearly scored as well, didn't he, early on? Nearly scored. He got put through, and he's going to be all action. He's got loads of power, loads of pace, and he really does get up and down the pitch. So I think Sandro Tonali in the middle of the park, funnily enough, as long as Bruno, keeps things shored up, protecting that back line, I think Sandro can have a big say in this game.
He's deceptively quick.
Yeah.
Honestly, that run that he makes where he just literally leaves all of our own players and Forest players for dead, and he likes to make those runs in and behind Isaac into these areas. He will just go, it almost seems like it's gung-ho, but he likes to join the attack and get involved in things, and he's got the pace to do it, but he's also got the pace to get back in and recover here. Harvey Barnes isn't the greatest of defenders in this area, but if he's got a centre mid that can cover in here, which Sandro Tonali will do. And to be fair, Longstaff does that as well. It will allow him to push further forward. So you might see times in the game where Udogie will link the attack and make those runs. It will be a Tonali that would track, but then you've got to be mindful that Barnes will stay on the counter. So he'll stay in this area. And if the ball breaks, then he's gone. So he will try and ask those questions of the left back a little bit more. Same on the right-hand side. What you talked about, Porro, I know he likes to get forward, and he is very much an attack-minded fullback. But we've got Gordon in this area. When Gordon may well track, or Joe Linton tracks, but the great thing about it is Joe Linton can also play left wing too, and he has those instincts to make those overlapping runs. Or if Gordon's tracking here, Joe Linton will stay in this position as part of the counter. So there are areas definitely, Chris, that you mentioned that we might well, we'll see. But Pat, just to end on the tactics board, where are the areas that you're concerned about from a Tottenham perspective that Newcastle may well exploit?
I wouldn't say concerned, but I'm very intrigued because, like I said, this is our first test, and for me, I'm looking at a lot of players to see if they've matured and if they've learned from last season and just matured as a player and just understanding and evaluating your own game. For me, Basuma, so good on the ball, just like you said about Tonali. Everything you're saying about Tonali, Basuma can do that, but defensively, he's very. I mean, obviously, I watch him week in and week out. He can be quite ill-disciplined and just leave space for your guys to run in and not man mark someone. So Basuma defensively, you guys watch it today as well. Just make sure that he's switched on at all times, because very important, especially against the better players and better teams. Again, you guys will bang on about Pedro Porro. Amazing offensively, but defensively, he needs to be switched on again today because your wingers are quality. And then I just think for me as well, I just need to see James Maddison just control the game for more than 30, 40 minutes. Like, first 2 games, he's been really good. But we all know that at the back end of last year, after he came back from the injury, he kind of wilted and he wasn't the same player. He's been really good the first couple of games and in pre-season. But these are the kind of games where he needs to assert his creativity and be prominent throughout the game. And as a unit as well, because it's not just for me, the way we play, it's a unit thing. I just need to see that line be really cute and clever because Isak's so good at breaking the line and running through. And if we're playing a high line, these guys need to get it bang on. Because if you leave a gap or two and Isak's through on goal, 9 times out of 10, he's scoring. So I think for that, that's why I would say, it's a tough one because both teams are full of quality, but both teams can make mistakes and leak goals. So it's going to be good. And I've seen the comments. There's some good comments coming in. A lot of your guys are saying that Kraft is your weak point. Again, I have to watch that today. I don't know. I've not seen that from what I've seen of you guys.
He's a right back, Pat. He's a right back. He can play centre back, but it's not his position.
Okay, fair enough. I have to watch him closely today then. And then, like your guys are saying in the comments, bang on. Just hopefully the ref doesn't do anything stupid and just lets us play. So for me, that's what I would say.
Definitely. Great discussion, lads. I think Maddison and Bruno, as you just touched on, I think that'll be a really good battle, an interesting battle. I know that Maddison likes to pick up these types of positions just off the left, putting balls in. He's done it so far this season, and also on the right. So it's whether we can track that. But that'll be a good battle, Bruno. And Maddison, but boys, top stuff with regards to the tactics board, and look, that brings us nicely to predictions. So we'll work our way around. I'll start. In fact, we'll go. I'll start. We'll go to you, Pat, and then Chris. We'll finish on yourself. So I'm going to stick with my prediction that I've been thinking about the last couple of days. I'm going to go for a home win. I think it'll be close. And I'm going to go 2-1 to Newcastle. And I'm going to say that Isak gets his goal, gets his first goal of the season. So that's my prediction. I do think it's going to be a close game. I do think they are very much of a match. But as you just said at the end, lads, hopefully the referee doesn't ruin what is rumored to be and bound to be a really, really good game of football. So fingers crossed. Pat, the away fan, where you going for, fella? What's your prediction?
I'm going to have to go bullish on this one. I'm going to have to go big. And this is obviously more hope than expectation, but I'm going to go 3-1 Spurs. I think this is the game that we're playing you at probably the best. There's no good time to play a good team, but you haven't been good so far. I just need to see something from us. But this is obviously, this is hope. This isn't, I'm hoping 3-1 Spurs, turn around the last two fixtures. We owe you lot more than one after the last couple of years. And I just hope we can catch you lot as you're still figuring stuff out. So 3-1 Spurs.
3-1 Spurs. And Chris, we'll end it on yours. What you go for today, fella?
Do you know what? I'm kind of where Patrick is in terms of it's more hope rather than expectation. Because I want us to kick on, and I want us to show that we can have a good season. But I do feel this is such a big test, and I hope we come through it. And I'm going to say that we will come through it. I've had a few different scores in my head, 3-2, 1-1, but I'm going to stick with my gut, and my gut is saying 2-0 Newcastle. So I'm gonna stick with 2-0.
Hey, 2-0. All right.
Ooh.
The predictions are in, and we're seeing them come up on the screen. We'll get all your predictions in as we're going along. But look, predictions in, and so is the big match preview. Massive thanks to everyone in the chat for your questions, your comments, for joining us on this Sunday morning. And around the world as well. Thanks for those that are joining in Oz, in America, and various other places. Your support is appreciated. Big thanks to Pat. Fantastic for you joining us early in this morning. Really do appreciate it. Look, where can people find you, man?
Yeah, man, I appreciate you lot having me on. As soon as I got the invite, I had to jump on because you're a quality channel and obviously you're a quality team. So it's always good to chop it up with good fans that know their football and can do it respectfully, you know, like, and even, you know, people in the comments saying 3-1, no strikers. We got Sonny, man. You lot know Sonny is dangerous on his day, man. He is. But yeah, I think it's going to be a tough game, man. Honestly, this can go either way. I just hope we don't get spanked. That's all. If we leave with a point, I'm happy. But obviously, while you lot are where you are, let's try and take advantage of that. But back to your question, Pete, Patrick Tyrant on YouTube. Subscribe to my channel. Give me a like. I've been here, there, and everywhere in terms of podcasting, but I've started my own channel, starting to put content out on a regular basis. So by all means, if you lot enjoyed what I did today, give me a subscription. It'd be greatly appreciated. And I'll be on Last Word on Spurs, which I feel is probably the best Spurs content and channel. We'll be doing a post-match review today around about 8 o'clock. So again, follow me on Twitter. You'll see everything I'm doing. Follow me on YouTube or subscribe to me on YouTube at Patrick Tyrant. There you go. It's right there. Thank you. I appreciate that.
And anyone that's following us on socials, we've tagged him in as well. So give him a follow, and that will then send you into the direction to his channels as well. We're following those channels, so you can find us through there too as well. Look, guys, absolute pleasure, Chris. Great stuff as always on away days. Great opinions, great lineups as well. And let's fingers crossed hope that lineup is the lineup that we see. Just a really quick shout out to our sponsors. I'm not going to be doing any reading again, so don't worry. Manscaped, thank you for all your support as sponsors of the channel. And of course, big thanks to Russ and the team at the Radiator Shed. Thank you for your continued support as well. Bigger sponsorship call outs to come. Right, people, that's it. Another away days preview in the bank. All it is now that we're waiting for is potentially a Newcastle United win, but let's wait and see. Daz is on his way to St. James's Park. He's going to be there roaring this to victory, and Chris has got something to add before we go.
Can we end with an Isak? I agree with you, Pete. I think it's his time today for the goal. I do.
In support of Alexander Isak, we'll end on the Isak. But of course, we do love playing away. Chris, say those words.
Well, I'm going to say how do you like that, but it's Isak time. It's Isak time.
It's Isak time. Take care, people.